Hymns to the Gods and Other Poems by Albert Pike. Chapter 1. To Hera, Mother of Gods, we bow devoutly at your sacred shrine, where the embraces flows swiftly to the sea through Samos green plains. We raise to you our joyful songs, never sung to your majesty in vain. The sun declines as the day departs, and in the east, your messengers' bent bow delights the eyes of eager worshippers. A gentle, sweet wind lightly stirs your garlands, where your cherished flowers intertwine, white lilies and dittany with the brilliant poppy. Will you deign to hear our solemn, earnest prayer and grant our request? Descend from Olympus in regal splendor, bearing your starry crown and gem-studded scepter, where the cuckoo broods. Let the reluctant sun not dip into the sea before our eyes behold the luster of your ivory-sandaled feet, feet that surpass the beauty of our green isles' daughters and gleam over the undulating sea like starlight upon a tranquil blue lake. Power, dominion, and virtue are your gifts, inspiring men to lift their eyes like hawks toward the sun, striving for high station and achieving it, whilst the mighty fall headlong at your instigation. Men immersed in misery arm themselves with courage, bear suffering with silent endurance, and grow divine through virtuous strength. Women endowed with your constancy remain devoted to their spouses in times of adversity, offering patience and solace amidst the world's harsh trials. Power and dominion vanish like thin April clouds, but virtue is eternal. For a millennium, men have bowed before your lofty shrines in quest of power, yet rarely do they supplicate for virtue, truth, and constancy. Before your altars, we humbly entreat you to grant us these priceless treasures. Where do you linger now? Upon Cithaeron, perhaps, or on some majestic mount like Cyllene or Eurymedon. At ease, your mind liberated from state concerns, gazing upon the Grecian isles along whose shores the serene ocean smiles? Around you, tall firs sway and ancient beaches stir. Dreaming, murmuring oaks spread their boughs overhead. Your regal hawk sways idly in the mountain breeze. Or perhaps you rest in a secluded, shaded nook beside a lively brook, lulled by its music into tranquil sleep, whilst young nymphs maintain their patient vigil. Wherever the scene is most exquisite, be it cave, lawn, dell, grotto, cool glade, deep vale, silver-sanded shore, or riverbank shaded by sycamores, hear, lovely queen, the echo of our plaintive voices. Approach us whilst the earth is green and spring blooms with buds and golden blossoms. Beloved queen, let Hebe, crowned with flowers, harness your peacocks to your jeweled chariot. Before the evening star ascends, depart for a season from the side of the mighty thunderer, and let swift Iris guide your birds to our fair shore. Dally not upon the dark Euxine, plowed by many keels, nor where the troubled Propontis swells, nor in Cos, Naxos, or the Arcadian dells. Come, marvel of heaven, to our island, the land of your nativity, nurtured by the seasons and by the sweet hours, when your virgin charms were first clasped by Jove's mighty arms. When your luminous eyes gazed into his with soft, affectionate light, and, concealing your blushing countenance upon his breast, you possessed no equal in beauty and grace. Come now, whilst the sun glides down the heavens, and bless these innocent brides who watch the western sky, their hearts fluttering with apprehension and rapture. Come, you who must loosen their maiden zones, lest they despair and languish with protracted waiting. God of the mighty deep, wherever the waves bow beneath your brazen axles, whether your formidable, wild, wind-winged steeds trample the tempestuous waters as swiftly as lightning flashes, revealing the rotation of massive wheels whilst the Atlantic rages with thunder like ancient chaos, surging in mountains and yawning chasms, endlessly fluctuating, your glossy-maned horses careering through the tumult and neighing with wild glee, or whether they tread the sounding sands beneath wrecked vessels, among green sea plants that sigh with eternal motion over the ocean's pale tenants. Come, our lofty altars await you, smoking with incense upon the level shore. Perhaps your steeds now roam with slackened reins over the Adriatic, their limbs unstained by salty foam, treading softly on silver hooves and fanning calm waters with manes that gleam like sunlight through mist. Trumpets resound around your chariot, and green-robed sea deities laud their king, while Apollo casts affectionate rays, taming your wild coursers. The air grows warm upon the sea's surface, where the tempest recently raged and the rebel winds, bound by Aeolus, flap their broad wings. Perhaps long leagues below thou sleepest in green caves, where sea flowers glow brighter than sapphires. Many a monster cumbers the sand around thee. Aged Triton slumbers carefree and still, and glad, sweet, bright eyes peep from many a nook, watching thy dreamless sleep. Perhaps thou art resting on some Indian isle, under a broad, thick tree, where many a mile stretches a sunny shore, with golden sands piled in fantastic shapes by naiads' hands, where the small waves come coyly, one by one, and curl upon the beach, like molten gold thick-set with jewelry rare and old. Sea nymphs sit near, and with small delicate shells make thee such melody, as in deep dells of a May night is by the fairies made, when, frolicking within some sober shade, they sound their silver flutes, soft, faint, and sweet, in strange but exquisite tunes, and delicate feet dance softly on the grass blades gemmed with dew, that bend, not break. All wanton airs that blew so lately through the spice trees, hover there, with overladen wings that lend to the air wealth of perfume. Oh, wilt thou not arise, and come with them to our new sacrifice? 1829, Chapter 2. To Demeter, goddess of bounty, at whose vernal call, when on the dewy earth thy first tones fall, and echo in its heart, each young green blade springs, wondering into life. The somber glade is clothed in vibrant green, from every fold, where they had huddled, mute and numb with cold, the joyous birds return, and sing to thee among the crowded leaves. And swift and free the rivers run, crushing their icy chains, shattered by thee and by thy vernal rains through green-clad valleys. Thou who chiefly art the goddess of all beauty, thou whose heart is ever in the sunny meads and fields, to whom the laughing earth looks up and yields her choicest treasures. Thou, who in thy car, drawn by winged dragons, when the morning star sheds his cool light, dost touch the budding trees, until their blossoms woo the trembling breeze. Oh, pour thy light of truth and joy upon our souls tonight, and grant us great abundance and sweet ease. Benignant goddess of the rustling corn, thou to whom reapers sing, and on the lawn bind up gigantic sheaves of foliered wheat, while innocent maidens, with light, dancing feet, bring thee bright poppies, weave for thee a crown of modest flowers, and gracefully bend down to garland thy full baskets, at whose side, among the sheaves, young Bacchus loves to ride, with luminous, clear, sparkling eyes, and mouth and feet all wine-stained in the sun-drenched south. Perhaps ye ride among the leafy vines, while round thy neck a rosy arm he twines, and with the other hand still gathers up and presses the plump grapes, and holds the cup to thy loved lips, then throws aside the wine, and crowns thee with the verdure of the vine, kisses thy brow, thy mouth, thine eyes most bright with love and joy. If those dear eyes now light some favored hill of vine-clad Thrace, oh, come, while all is still, and with them bless the coming of this night. The tiny stars rise from the silver ocean and wander up the sky. A sweet emotion stirs the pale bosoms of the drifting clouds, and the thin mist, that the gray hills enshrouds, gleams like a rain of diamonds in the air. Lo! A soft blush of light is rising there, like silver shining through a crimson thread, and soon the queenly moon her love will shed like pearl mist on the islands and the sea, which thou wilt cross to view our mystery. Lo! We bear torches here for thee, and urns, wherein incense with delectable fragrance burns, upon altars piled with radiant fruit, as sweet and ripe as thy sweet lips, with golden wheat, blossoms gathered whilst the dawn lay half asleep, and Indian spices. Patiently we keep our earnest vigil for thee, bending before thy waiting altars, until to our fair shore thy chariot wheels shall roll, whilst ocean to the burden reels, and utters to the heavens a stifled roar. 1830, Chapter 3, to Dionysos. Where art thou, Dionysos? Upon the hills of some fair land afar, where sweet wine fills the clustered grapes. Dost thou stain thy ripe lips red with that rich, aged juice which men long ages dead, thy devoted votaries, pressed and hid? Dost thou raise aloft between thyself and the sun thy jewel-encircled cup, brimmed with luminous rubies? Or doth thy chariot, illuminated by the blaze of the remote northern star, roll over Thracia's hills, whilst all around shout thy frenzied bacchanals, and resounds the clamor of jovial revelry, and distant men start at thy tumult? Or in some cool glen reclinest thou, beneath dark ivy leaves, idling the day away, whilst each wild fawn weaves gay garlands for thee, as thou sippest from a great bowl of potent, strong wine, and the terrifying roll of thy all-conquering wheels is heard no more, but thy mighty tigers, by no fierce dream stirred, crouch at thy feet. Iachos, come to meet thy worshippers, who here with joyous strains of ancient song yearn to greet thy Godhead. O thou who lovest pleasure, within whose heart the warmth of wine is ever felt, who participatest in all wild, wanton mirth, who joinest in the dance of merry maidens, where the glance of bright dark eyes and the twinkling of white feet of lovely girls delight thee, when they convene beneath the summer moon of peace, bringing solace to all careworn, sad men, whose smiles dispel the piercing pains of grief, for whom young maids weave ivy garlands, and in pleasant glades suspend thine image, and with joyous looks dance round, whilst shepherds with long crooks join the glad company and glide about with merry laughter and many a hearty shout, staining with rich dark grapes each little cheek that they cherish most, and then with sudden whim, seizing the willing hand and dancing onward about the verdant mound. O thou merry son of supreme Jove, wherever thou dost wander among the dense vines, come, ere day is done, and let us also experience thy radiant influence. Where art thou, conqueror before whom fell the jeweled kings of Indi, when the powerful surge of thy great multitudes came upon them, and the mystic thyrsus in thy red right hand was brandished over them, until every soul grew faint, as though smitten with lightning, when the roll of thy great chariot wheels was upon the necks of mighty potentates, until thou didst restrain thy tigers and wild lynxes upon the shore of the Indian Sea, and pacify its angry roar with sparkling and delicious Grecian wine poured upon its waters, until the satisfied brine gave forth new fragrances and a pleasant scent of rare perfume, and haggard men, all exhausted by long, acute sickness, drank in life anew when the rich sea breeze through their lattices blew bachos, who tramplest care with thy soft feet. Oh, hither turn thy tigers, strong and fleet, and illuminate our happy isles with the radiance of thy smiles. Come with thy hair dewy with wine, and meet those who, for thee, have traversed weary miles. Come to our ceremony. Lo, we erect an altar of green turf near the sea beach, and garland it with vine shoots and the leaves of glossy ivy. Come, and banish all grief far from us. Lo, upon the turf we pour brimming cups of wine, until all along the shore eddies the luscious fragrance. See, a mist is rising from the wine-stained turf. Come with thy train of riotous satyrs, pouring forth a strain of utmost shrillness on the noisy pipe. Come, with thine eye and lip of ripe and wondrous rare beauty, and let us hear thy wheels rolling along the hills, whilst twilight steals quietly upward, and dusky, solemn night is hindered from her starry path by the light of thy wild tiger's eyes. Cross the calm sea with all thy wild and merry company. The stars shall wax and wane, and ere day comes again, we shall wander over hill and vale with thee, sending afar a loudly joyous strain. 1829. Chapter 4. To Aphrodite. O thou most lovely and most beautiful, wherever cooingly thy white doves lull thy bright eyes to soft slumber, whether floating upon the vagrant south wind, or if departed to some still cloud that swings in dreamy sleep, and there reclining, whilst its snowy wings blush into crimson. Whether thy delicate wheels, over green sward that scarce the pressure feels, brush the bright dewdrops from the bending grass, leaving the poor green blades to look, alas, with dim eyes at the moon, whether now thou floatest over the sea, whilst each white wing of thy fair doves is wet, and sea maidens bring sweet odors for thee. Hear, Aphrodite, hear our rustic song. Thalassia, hear, for unto thee belong all pleasant offerings. Ring-doves coo to thee, while they entwine their arched necks lovingly among the murmuring leaves. Thine are all sounds of earthly pleasure, and where happiness most abounds, there we surely look for thee. In the dusky depths of some leaf-shaded nook thou hidest frequently, where soft winds wave thy sunny curls, and cool airs fondly lave thy radiant brow, and ruffle the delicate wings of thy weary doves, where some small, strange, sweet bird, with bright, diminutive eyes, sings his quaint love-tale in notes that are never heard save by thee. In some such spot dreaming thou least now, and with half-open eye, drinkest in beauty. Fairest of heaven, do thou hear kindly our faint cry, Doris, from whom all things upon this earth derive light and life, for whom even laughing mirth redoubles his glee, thou, whom the joyous bird continually sings, whose name is heard in every pleasant sound, at whose warm glance all things appear brighter, for whom wine doth dance more merrily within the agate vase to meet thy lip, at the mere glimpse of whose sweet face, joy leaps forward more swiftly with a clearer laugh, and sorrow flings his staff into the sea, and, tossing back the hair from his dim eyes, looks upward again to long-forgotten skies, while avarice forgets to count his gold, and even offers thee his untold wealth, dear to him as his heart's blood. Thou, to whose supreme might all things are glad to bow, come unto us, and with thy looks of light, bless and console us now. Hear us, Urania, thou whom all obey, at whose sweet will rude satyrs leave their play, and gather wild flowers to adorn the hair of the young nymphs, and bear nuts and berries to those they most favor. Paphia, to whom they leap in awkward mood through the dusky gloom of darkening oak trees, or at sunny noon play unto thee, on their rude pipes, a melody of wondrous languor. Thou, whose great power summons young sea maidens from each ocean bower, with many an idle song to sing to thee, and bright locks floating mist-like on the sea, and glancing eyes, as if in distant caves they spied their lovers. Let cares no more oppress thy servants, but, ere our feast is concluded, bless our newborn loves. O, thou who once didst weep, and with mournful tears bedew the pitying woods, by those great fears that haunted thee when young Adonis lay with dark eyes drowned in death on that dismal day which saw him fall wounded, with many a moan, upon the withered leaves, and sadly and alone breathe out his life. Deign thou to look upon all maidens who grow pale through excess of love, and pity them. Come to us when night brings her first faint stars, and let us hear the wings of thy most beautiful and bright-eyed doves fanning the breathless air. Let all the loves fly about thy chariot, with sweet, low melodies murmuring upon their lips. Come, each maiden yearns for thy fair presence. Goddess of true love, float through the fragrant air, and, as thy light wheels roll, remove from us all sadness and love-sick care. Lo, we possess here diverse species of incense to burn in thy honor. Wine as clear as the very sunshine, meet for youthful Bacchus. Blossoms, too, we have gathered by starlight, whilst the morning dew yet lay fresh upon them. Myrtle wreaths we bear to adorn thy bright, luxuriant tresses and shade thy temples. This is the season meet for all exquisite beauty. Thou, who dost love the clime of our beloved isle, where roses bud and bloom, harboring honey in their bosoms and a glow resembling thine own cheek, lifting their modest heads to be refreshed by the transparent beads of diamond dew, which pale the rays of the young moon, our altars burn for thee, and upon the blaze we pour rich incense from vast golden urns. Queen Cypria, hearken to our words, and hither guide, encompassed by all the graces, thy team of snow-winged birds. 1829, Chapter 5, to Apollon. Bright-haired Apollon, thou who art ever a blessing to the world, whose generous heart perpetually overflows with love, light, and life, thou, at whose glance all things on earth are filled with happiness, to whom, in early spring, flowers lift their heads, whether they laughingly cling to the steep mountain's side, or nestle timidly within the vale. Thou, to whom the pale, chill, and weary earth looks up with patient gaze when winter flees, whilst the storm-shattered trees put forth fresh leaves and drink deep draughts of light poured from thy brilliant orb. Thou, in whose bright, coruscant rays the eagle nourishes his eye with flashing fire, and, far aloft, screams out his haughty joy, by all the names and the sublime titles that thy godhead claims, Phoebus or Clarius, golden-haired Apollo, Cynthius or Pythias, cease for a time to pursue the fleeing night, and hearken to our hymn to thee, and with a smile draw near. Most exquisite poet, thou whose great heart's swell pours itself forth upon mountain, lawn, and dell, thou who dost touch them with thy golden feet, rendering them perfect for the painter's art, inspired by whom the poet's eyes perceive great beauty everywhere, in the slow heaving of the unquiet sea, or in the roar of its resounding waters, upon the margins of pleasant streams, within the dark, jagged rifts of savage mountains where black clouds drift, flushed with swift lightning, and upon the broad, dark brow of silent night, who solemnly and slowly paces the sky. O thou whose influence tinges all things with beauty, renders every sense a double delight, and clothes with delicate grace all that is young and fair, whilst all that is base flits far away, like darkness. Thou who art in truth incarnate majesty, hearken, whilst our youth, with earnest yearning, cry aloud. Answer our hymn, and come unto us, Most High. In quaint disguise, with wondrous grace and fire, thou dost often evoke exquisite music from thy golden lyre upon smooth, sunlit glades, where village maidens dance upon the greensward, their hair adorned with wild flowers or a wreath of thine own laurel. Whilst reclined beneath some ancient oak, thou dost smile upon these elves, as though thou wert entirely human like themselves. Sometimes thou playest within the darkening forest, whilst fawns glide forth in grotesque and rustic dance, flitting among the trees with awkward leaps, like their god Pan. And from the deep fir thickets emerge the satyrs, joining the wild crew and capering for thy pleasure. From every yew, beech, and oak, the wood nymphs shyly peer to witness the revelry, and the merry laughter awakens the startled woodland from its sleep, whilst music cheers its dim, deep solitude. O come, and permit the sound of thy sweet lyre to eddy about our isle, great seer and prophet, thou who instructest men in the deepest hidden lore, and dost pluck the future from his den, so that he floats by in visible shape, apparent to the eye, yet robed in visions. Thou, within whose high power reside health and sickness, thou who dost often shower great plagues upon impious nations, with thy hot breath withering their souls and raining sudden death like a fiery mist among them. Or, again, like the sweet breeze after a summer rain, which thrills the earth like love, thou sendest forth health, like a lovely child, who goes about with soft, white feet among the sick and weak, kissing each poor pale cheek with rosy lip, shaking perfume from its white wings, and, through the shriveled heart, stirring the blood anew to replenish the abandoned veins. O, thou whose name is hymned by all, let us also dare to claim thy holy presence here. Hear us, resplendent God, and lend a gracious ear. Hear us, thou master of the springing bough, who delightest to dispatch thine arrows to the mark in the gloomy forests, like the keen flight of those shafts that fill the universe with light, discharged from the sun's quiver, from whom grim bears and lordly lions flee, as timid as hares, to hide among secure mountains. Thou whose cry resounds in the autumnal woods, where the brown, dry leaves whirl and fly, when with his riotous train Bacchus is upon the hills, and upon the plain full-armed Demeter, when upon the sea the brine gods blow their shells, and the world rings with glee. Then thy clear voice hushes every errant noise into silence, pealing with supreme sweetness upon the hills, in the echoes of the dancing rills, over the sea, upon the resounding plain, and through the eddying air, until all voices wane before its influence. Draw near, great God, before the day departs hence, by that most fatal day when, with a cry, young Hyacinthus fell, and his dark eye was dimmed with blood, when, dying, he laid his wounded head upon a bed of his own flowers, breathing heavy sighs, by those cherished eyes of long-loved Hyacinthus, by the sighs that then, O young Apollon, thou didst pour forth upon every gloomy hill and desolate shore, weeping away thy soul, and obscuring thine eyes with eclipse until the chilled earth was filled with sad forebodings for thy dimmed radiance. When, prayers by pale priests in many a temple were hymned to the pale-eyed sun, and the frightened satyrs strayed long in the dark woods, then came to the chill glade to lament that thou wert still unkind, while Artemis wept for love, and languished and pined for light and life, by that most fearful grief. O bright Apollon, hear and grant relief to us who cry to thee, and let us, ere we die, behold thy glory. 1829. Chapter 6. To Artemis, most graceful goddess, whether thy feet do now pursue the dun deer to their deep retreat in the heart of some ancient forest, or upon the flank of some lofty mountain where, with most eager eye, thou glidest on the chase, with bended bow and arrow on the string, a wondrous glow of exquisite beauty upon thy cheek, and feet as white as the silver moon, as graceful and fleet as her soft rays, with thy quiver rattling at thy back with every step. If thou art following some track in far-off Thessaly, brushing the dew from many a flower's full cup, with head bent forward, hearkening to the baying of thy faithful hounds, whilst in the deep woods they, strong-limbed and swift, bound eagerly forward, and from distant hills their long, deep note resounds, thy sweetest music. Orthia, hear our cry, and permit us to worship thee, whilst far and high thy brother climbs, and his light falls full upon the earth. For when the night winds lull the world to sleep, then must Delia glide into the lightless sky, with robes of silver dew and sunward eye. Perhaps thou highest to some shaded bower among wide-spreading trees, where frightened beasts hear not the clamor of thy hounds. There, reclining upon the green grass and leaves all sere and brown, thou dost pillow thy delicate head upon some gnarled and moss-clad root, where soft winds run riot about thee, and thy fair nymphs sharpen thy death-winged arrows, or anoint thy hair with Lydian perfumes, whilst thy strong hounds lie lazily upon the ground, watching thine eye and thine arrows, whilst thou hast a dream, perchance within some deep-bosomed, shaded stream thou bathest now, where even the enamored sun catches no glimpse of thee, where shadows on the dusky waters gather, and render it cool, like the wind-chilled vast sea, or some transparent pool deep in a cavern, where hanging branches dip their ringlets in the stream, or slowly drip with teardrops of translucent dew, before no eyes but those of flitting wind-gods. Each nymph hies into the deep, cool, undulating stream, and there thou pillowest thyself upon its breast, Queen Cynthia, the fair. By all thine hours of pleasure thou wast upon tall Latmos, motionless, entranced, and lost in boundless ecstasy, ever gazing on thy bright-eyed youth, when the departed sun was illuminating remote seas, or at mid-noon careering through the sky, by every melody and voice of joy that thrilled the chords of thy great heart, when on it fell his words in that cool, shady nook, where thou hadst brought and placed Endymion, where fair hands had taught all beauty to shine forth, where thy young maids had brought rare shells for him, and from the glades all starry flowers, with precious stones, and gems of peerless beauty, pearly diadems of ancient sea-gods. Birds were there, that sang and caroled ever, living waters rang their cadences at all times, to soothe the soul of thy Endymion. Pleasant breezes stole with light feet through the nook, that they might kiss his dewy lips. Ah, by those hours of bliss, worth an eternity in heaven, come to us, fair and beautiful Aricia, take us under thy gentle care. 1829. Chapter 7. To Ares, great war god, mighty Ares, hear our hymn, sung to thee in the sylvan recesses dim of dusky Curia, near the Icarian wave, when war's crimson storms in lurid fury rave, and the fierce billows of his voracious tide over the groaning land sweep far and wide, when his dense legions, clad in gleaming steel, and bristling thick with javelins, madly reel in desperate conflict, when the mighty roar peals upward, shaking heaven's great golden floor, even as the tumult of the maddened sea shakes granite towers, when fear and agony and desperation riot hand in hand, and fire and famine waste the lean, lank land. Then thou, rejoicing, ragest through the field, like mountain thunder clangs thy brazen shield, thy falchion, like the lightning, flashes far. The terrified earth, beneath thy sounding car, shuddering, quakes and shivers, and ever, as the war's red surge recedes, brooks swollen with blood run downward to red rivers. Turn thy wild coursers from our lovely land, let not their hoofs trample our golden strand. Brandish not thy spear above our fruitful hills, nor turn to blood the waters of our rills. Crush not our blossoms with thy remorseless wheels, nor let our grain be trodden by armed heels, lest the poor starve. Let not thy sister ride, with pestilence and famine, by thy side, but come with Aphrodite in thine arms enfolded, radiant with 1,000 charms, her lovely head reclined upon thy massive chest, her sweet eyes soothing into placid rest thy fiery passions, while her doves glide through the sparkling atmosphere. Bring with thee, too, thy lovely children, at their mother's side, Eros, whose form expands and wings grow wide, when his sweet brother, Anteros, is near, the deity of tenderest love and faith sincere, with fair Harmonia clinging to thy neck, and mingling music with her glad caresses, while the young Graces flit round, and deck with dew-enjeweled flowers thy loved one's golden tresses. Let thy harsh wheels roll through Aberaman, where Mount Imaz glitters in the sun, throned like a monarch, in solitary state. Make there more rugged and more desolate the frozen Scythian wildernesses, grind to dust the Indian rocks, and like the wind drive thy fleet coursers through the Median plains, and over Bactria's barbarous domains. But spare the isles of our beloved Greece, and leave them sleeping tranquilly in peace. Here, beneath an ancient, stately, branching oak, thine altar sendeth to the clouds its smoke, whereon the wolf and ravenous vulture bleed, the magpie, and the bold and noble steed. We bow in adoration at thy shrine, dark-bearded God, majestic and divine. Our incense, burning, loads the eddying air, and Cytherea joins us in our prayer. Wilt thou not listen kindly to the strain which now around our vine-clad hills is pealing? For when did beauty ever sue in vain, even in his sternest mood meekly to valor kneeling? 1845, Chapter 8, to Pallas. Here, blue-eyed Pallas, earnestly we call, entreating thee to our glad festival, held in the sunny morning of the year, on this our rosy isle, to thee most dear. Thine altar, fashioned by young maidens' hands, near the Carpathian's sparkling water stands, upon the sloping and sunny Rhodian shore, gracing the green lawn's undulating floor, walled in with trees, which, sweeping wide around, rampart the precincts of the sacred ground. Myriads of roses, flushing full in bloom, send to far Curia a surge of rich perfume, like the glad incense of our prayer, which floats up to the trembling stars. The resonant notes of silver flutes roll through the echoing woods, startling the fawns in their shy solitudes. 100 youths, each fairer than a maid, over the greensward, clad in armor, whirl in thy wild mystic dance. 100 maids, in white and gold, come from the dusky glades, the loveliest of our beauty-blessed isle, their small white feet gleaming like stars, that smile in the dark azure of a moonless night. They bear thy robe of pure and stainless white, sleeveless, embroidered richly with fine gold, whereon thy deeds are told, those chiefly done of old, when, blazing in the van, thou didst the giants fight. Brain-born of Zeus, thou who dost grant to men knowledge and wisdom, and hast brought again science and art, in renovated youth, and taught fair Greece to love and seek the truth, thou to whom artist and artificer, fearing thy potent anger to incur, bend down beseechingly, and pray for aid in all the cunning mysteries of their trade. Inspired by thee, young men, immersed in cells, drink deep of learning at time's ancient wells, forget that beauty's starry eyes still shine, and adore Athene only, the divine. Aged, gray-haired sages pore on antique scrolls, and feed with wisdom's oil their burning souls. Inspired by thee, the prophet sees afar the signs of peace, the portents of grim war, foretells the strange and wayward destinies of nations and of men, and when the skies with genial rains will bless the husbandman, or vex the earth with hail, thy favor can the life of those well-loved by thee prolong, and render eld youthful again and strong. Oh, come to us, while glittering with dew young day still crimsons the horizon's blue. Come, Parthenos, to thy beloved home, nor longer idly roam, where hungry oceans foam, round barbarous continents and islands new. Oh, come not to us, clad in armor bright, intolerable unto mortal sight, with flashing spear, and helm of blazing gold, crested with griffin-guarded sphinx, nor hold thine aegis, blazing with Medusa's eye, wreathed with live serpents, not in warlike guise as when against the giants thou didst march, with mighty tread shaking earth and the sky's great arch, terrific in thy panoply of war, Jove's lightning in thy right hand flashing far, till, struck with terror and o'erwhelming dread, heaven's baffled adversaries howling fled. Come in thy garb of peace, with kindly smile, breathing new beauty on thy flowery isle, with mystic veil over thy dazzling brow, and soft feet, whiter than the mountain snow. Approach us across the jubilant sea, from thy Tegean sanctuary in Arcadia, thy sacred dragon gliding upon the waves, whilst nymphs, emerging from profound ocean caverns, floating like stars upon the vaporous spray, chant about thee many a delightful lay, and stern Poseidon, smiling at the melody, accords thee a gracious welcome to his vast domain, and Aeolus bears incense from those shores where the wild Ganges roars, and his great torrent pours into the Indian Sea, and all the trees rain rich fragrance. Thou who didst guide the intrepid Argonauts over the tempestuous ocean's rebellious tide, by Lemnos and by radiant Samothrace, by Troas and the dark Symplegades, and didst dispatch them, with a propitious breeze, through the wide Euxine into Colchis, hearken, O virgin goddess, and draw near with a smile, whilst we abide here upon the silver sands, and stretch, imploringly our suppliant hands. Then shall our maidens, on long summer eves, embowered amidst the overshading leaves, relate the epic, when, more radiant than a star, approaching upon the azure sea afar, thou didst our humble ceremonies bless, and smile upon their budding loveliness, when novel flowers sprang in every sunny vale, new fragrances laded every pleasant gale, and whiter grain, and richer wine and oil, thenceforth rewarded the husbandman's joyful toil, and gentler breezes, and serener skies thereafter blessed the isle. O benevolent and wise! O radiant goddess! Shall this sacred day glide mournfully away, fading to evening gray, and thou not deign to gladden our anxious, yearning eyes? 1845. Chapter 9. To Hermes. Hearken, white-winged messenger. If thy swift feet tarry within heaven's starry ramparts, where meet the gods, their nectar daintily to sip in indolent leisure, where thy beardless lip utters such eloquence, that thine ancient foe, imperial Hera, doth her animosity forego, and hang entranced upon thy sweet accents, whilst Cypria rewards thee with an inviting smile, and wise Athena's chalice stands waiting by, until thou hast concluded, whether, nigh the sky, among the palpitating stars thou soarest, or foldest thy bright pinions in some forest that crowns an Asian mount, if thy wings fan the broad sea, where sultry Africa flings his hot breath upon the waters, by the shore of Araby the blest, or amidst the roar of crashing northern ice. O turn and urge thy winged course to us, abandon the rough surge or icy mountain height, or city proud, or haughty temple, or dim forest, down bowed with debilitating age, and come to us, thou young and mighty sage, thou who invisibly dost ever stand nigh each illustrious orator, and hand in hand with golden-robed Apollo, dost touch the tongue of the rapt poet, on whom men have hung, strangely enchanted, when, in dark disguise, thou hast descended from cloud-shrouded skies, and lifted up thy voice to teach bold men thy world-awakening art. O thou, who when the ocean was uncharted, didst teach them to send great vessels upon it. Thou who dost extend, in tempest or calm, protection to the hopes of the honorable merchant. Thou who upon the slopes of Mount Cyllene first didst awaken the lyre and the exquisite harp, with childish fire and magical beauty playing, in dark caverns wondrous melodies, unlike the ruder strains that Pan had uttered, whilst each wondering nymph emerged from tree and mountain, and the waters of the mountain stream, to drink each echoing note that over the entranced forests did float, with pure, clear tone, like silver trumpets upon a tranquil lake blown. Thou peerless artist, thou whose wondrous skill, in ages past the earth's wide bounds did fill with every utility, thou who dost teach quick-witted thieves the miser's gold to reach, and deprive him of his sleep for many a night, invoking thy curses, mischievous, wild sprite, young rogue god Hermes, ever eager to deceive all gods and men, with mute and noiseless feet wending in quest of mischief, now to purloin the spear of Ares, now to obstruct the wheel of young Apollo's chariot, that it may ascend most slowly upward. Thou, whom wrestlers invoke, whether they contend upon the level green at dewy twilight, beneath the dim screen of ancient oaks, or at the sacred games, in fiercer combat. Thou, whom each then invokes in half-formed prayer, when the rapid breath is drawn for the final struggle. Thou, whom, upon the lawn, the victor lauds, and ascribes to thee his newly garnered honors. Let us ever abide under thy guardianship, and hearken, O hearken, to our solemn, earnest prayer. 1829. Chapter 10. To Flora. Listen, lovely Chloris, whilst we sing to thee. Thou reposest now beneath some shady tree, nigh a swift brook, upon a mossy root. All other winds in deep delight are mute, whilst Eurus frolics with thy flowing hair, 1,000 fragrances wafting through the air, and rippling softly through the dewy verdure of the dense foliage, which murmuringly screens thy snowy forehead. Struggling through their mass, the quivering sunlight showers upon the grass in golden flakes. Around thee 1,000 flowers, still glistening with the tears of spring's light showers, offer the incense of their sweet perfume to thee, who causest them to bud and bloom, with thy gracious smile and influence divine. Thine arms around young Zephyrus entwine, and his round thee, with roses garlanded, on his pale shoulder rests thy lovely head. Thy deep eyes gaze into his, radiant with mute, unutterable bliss, and, joyous there, O lovely young enamored pair, your rosy lips frequently meet in many a long warm kiss. Now the young spring rejoices and is glad, in her new robes of starry blossoms clad. The joyful earth smiles like an innocent bride, who sitteth, blushing, by her husband's side. The bird her nest with earnest patience weaves, and sings, delighted, concealed within the leaves. From their high habitations in cavernous ancient trees, the busy legions of industrious bees drink nectar at each flower's enameled brim, breathing in murmured music their joyous hymn. The nereids emerge from their deep ocean caverns, deserting for a time the saddened waves. The dryads from the dusky solitudes of venerable and majestic woods. The naiads from deep beach-embowered lakes. The oreads from where hoarse thunder shakes the iron mountains, wandering through cool glades and blushing lawns, when first the darkness fades, before the crimsoning morn, and ere the young day's sapphire hues are gone, in joyful haste all, their lovers to enwreathe withal, gather the newly blossomed flowers, gemmed with the tears of dawn. Come, gentle queen, we spill to thee no blood. Thine altar stands where the gray, ancient wood, now verdant with leaves, and fresh with April rains, in stately circles sweeping round, contains, embowered like a hill-environed dell, a tranquil lawn, whose undulations swell green as the ocean waves. Nigh a bubbling spring, whose waters, sparkling downward, softly ring upon the small pebbles, around whose grassy lip the birds and bees its crystal waters sip. Thine altar stands, composed of shrubs and flowering vines, where rose with lily and carnation twines. We burn to thee no incense. These fresh blossoms breathe upon the air more exquisite perfumes than all that load the heavy wind that seaward floats from Araby to Inde. No priests are here prepared for sacrifice, but fair young maidens, with mischievous, bright eyes, with white flowers garlanded, and by their young, delighted lovers led, with frequent kisses, and fond and innocent caresses, to honor thee, the victim and the priest instead. 1845. Chapter 11. To Hypnos, benevolent comforter of all the weary gods, with drooping eyelids, head that ever nods, thou silent soother, who with all thy train of empty dreams, dim tenants of the brain, vague as the wind, dost sleep in thy dark cave, at whose portals sluggishly white poppies wave, in the light breezes that saunter by thy bed, thine only throne, with darkness tenanted, and curtains black as are the eyes of night. Thou who slumberest when the hesitant light recedes, deep within solitary forests where somber dusk conceals herself, trembling at the sun's approach, whilst shadow glides through silent canopy. Or, if, but half awakened, thou dost drowse upon the margin of some landlocked lake, tranquil as the silent, cloudless heavens, while thy whimsical dreams, capricious and unrestrained, flit with mischievous caprice, fantastic illusions, and wild revelry about the indolent earth. Ah, draw nigh, and hearken to the hymn we chant here, where the fractured starlight descends obliquely through dense foliage. Thou lover of the banks of tranquil streams, shaded by ancient, expansive oaks, whereon are scattered the gleams of moon and stars, or of the ocean when its vast bosom throbs with no emotion. save when the orb of the moon suspends her lamp to pour a glittering splendor upon its level expanse. Thou who reclinest upon the moist, warm sands, while breezes come dancing from remote southern climes, bearing dreams upon their shoulders, their wings laden and dripping with rich perfumes. Or upon some cloudy peak that, like an eminence of chrysolite, rests against the western sky when the gentle night arrives late in the summertide. Or beneath the sea, scarcely mindful of the dim monotony of the great billows, which murmur here like the wings of swarming dreams, while the immense ocean sways his vast bulk above thy listless, recumbent head. Thou who dost bless sorrowful mourners with thy touch, causing poignant agony to loosen his grasp upon the bleeding fibers of the heart, so that pale disappointment no longer languishes in solitude, and sorrow dries her tears, ceasing to weep her life away, finding renewed solace in slumber. Thou who dost bless the birds at twilight gray, when, weary from their song throughout the summer day, they watchfully yearn for the evening star, thy herald upon the azure slope of heaven. Whither have fled thy flocks of fleeting dreams, celestial Lord, by whom all clamor is utterly abhorred? Come to this shade, so cool, so fresh, where naught disturbs the silence, save the murmur of the dreaming firs. Touch our weary eyes, render the dusky shadows more profound. Ah, thou art arrived. We perceive thy sovereign influence, forget our hymn, and dissolve into sleep. And thus, until the newborn day ascends high into the heavens with swiftly leaping steeds of fire, here we shall recline, calmly sleeping beneath the vine leaves. 1830, Chapter 12. Latona. There occurred a sudden tumult, ages ago, upon the Aegean Sea. With a piercing cry, as of immense agony, the azure deep parted, and the wrathful roar of a mighty earthquake reverberated along the coast. The tortured waters, trembling, stood aghast, as Delos emerged, and anchored secure and fast among the Cyclades, lay tranquil and serene. In one brief moment, valley, plain, and mount were carpeted with verdure, and majestic trees sprang to their full stature, rustling in the breeze, while their boughs, foliage, fruits, buds, and blossoms yearned for the sunshine and the summer showers. Hounded by Hera, the unfortunate Latona had until then wandered, terrified and sorrowful, across the vast earth and through the surging seas, imploring mercy upon bended knees, yet ever denied. For many a weary day she had roamed above the rugged hills where, groaning, lay Enceladus and Typhon, and over volcanic peaks where lava foamed. At times she concealed herself within dark forests where the supple serpent glided through the tall grass, over gray weeds and blossoms trampled by tigers, where the grim lion couched in tangled coverts, and the fierce panther, proud of his dappled hide, startled the woodlands with his deep, resonant growl. All things conspired to terrify the soul. The hedgehog that rolled across her path, gray eagles with talons like those of leopards, aged and bald vultures, fierce hawks, and restless owls whose screech appalled her, red scorpions lurking beneath mossy stones, and here in their vast heaps of decaying bones of the primeval men who had won renown in warfare. Bronze arrowheads, javelins, scimitars, ancient crescent shields, and blunted battle axes, large yellowed skulls with wide and gaping fissures, far too ancient and dry to harbor. Worms, wherein only the idle spider spun his treacherous web. Then would she pause, reclining her weary head among the withered leaves, and pray for death, remaining thus in a swoon, devoid of pulse, until thou, O Zeus, didst arise to rain thy celestial light upon her eyelids. Thereupon, the tide of life would once more course through her cold heart. Her soul would wax strong and become fit once more to contend with her destiny, and many a hopeful anticipation would glow within her breast. Then, O sovereign Zeus, wouldst thou, with the radiant terrors of thy frowning brow. Do you want access to this and all the complete audiobooks on the channel, plus the ebook version? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code in the left corner of the screen to access our library, where you can listen to your favorite esoteric books without ad interruptions, lock your screen, or use other apps while the narration plays, and even download the ebook version to follow along as you listen. Listen on your computer via web browser, or download the app from the Play Store. After subscribing, you will receive an email with your login details, password, and step-by-step instructions on how to access the books through the Hotmart app.